John, I want to start off with your thoughts as someone who grew up watching the Cardinals in Tennessee, and I know your father loved the Cardinals, and Tim McCarver's, of course, a Tennessee guy from Memphis. But anyway, just on a personal reflection, your reaction and your thoughts on the passing of Tim McCarver.
Yeah, Bernie, I was a guy who I heard the stories from my grandfather and my father, and they always told the tale about McCarver walking out to the mound and Gibson telling him to get behind the plate. The only thing he knew about good pitching was he couldn't hit it. So you would hear those stories, and but I never understood the anger directed towards McCarver as an announcer, because I thought he was great. I thought he did a great job of breaking things down. Sure, sometimes he stated the obvious, but I mean, I thought he was one of the great announcers, one of the great analysts of our time, because he taught baseball to people who didn't know it. He gave an inside angle to people who maybe thought they knew it, and then he also was just loaded with one great story after another. So, he's a true legend. Won 2 World Series, 2-time All-Star, and then just a giant in our business as an analyst. So today's a tough day for the Cardinals, no doubt.
It really is, and I was talking much earlier in the show, John. I won't repeat it all. I don't want to waste your time by me running my mouth, but I thought, if anything, McCarver as a broadcaster, as great as he was, and he was truly great, and he did it for a long time. We tend to forget. I mean, people of a certain age, anyway, tend to forget just how important and valuable he was as a catcher to that 64 team, 67 team, 68 team, and some other seasons too. I mean, he was really, really outstanding. He was one of the most important players they had during that time, which was a terrific era for Cardinals baseball.
Yeah, it says a lot when you're so good as a broadcaster. You're so great as a broadcaster, it overshadows how good you were as a player. We've seen that with some of the, Dan Deerdorfs and the Frank Giffords and Pat Summeralls. People forget, those are other sports, obviously, but people don't realize as good a players they were. You build this legendary career as an announcer, and, oh, by the way, you were a pretty good player too. And, that was definitely the case, with Tim McCarver. Like I said, 2-time All-Star, probably could have been a 3-time All-Star on some of the greatest teams in Cardinal history. So, like you said, he was a great player and an even better announcer.
Yeah, we're going to miss him. He was one of those guys, when you saw him, he just made you happy. Like, if I didn't know that he was on a series with Dan McLaughlin, like walking into Wrigley Field one day, I hear a voice coming, that media entrance, and I'm starting to work my way up the ramps, and I hear this guy hollering at me, and it's McCarver, and you would just turn around and see him, and whatever was going on in your life at that moment, you immediately felt like 100 times better. He could just light you up like that. That's the way he was, and that's how I'll always remember him. I mean, he would walk into a room or a ballpark or a press box or a booth or a hotel lobby, and everybody smiled. It was just everybody was.
I was in my first season last year. He knew nothing of me, had no clue who I was. I passed him in the hallway, and he said, "Hey, how are you today?" He didn't have to do that, but that tells you a lot about a guy's character. When he's a giant in this business. I'm a nobody compared to him, and he asked me how my day was going. So that tells you a lot about a person's character, I feel.
John Denton, the great John Denton, with us. Again, please follow him on Twitter at JohnDenton555. John, it's obviously very early down there, but I just want to ask your impressions of a few things. I wanted to start with, I realize we'll all know him a lot more as time goes on, but what are your initial impressions of Dusty Blake as the guy in terms of the pitching coach, where he's front and center now? And I've just read some coverage and just see some things he's talking about. Ollie's mentioning some of the things that he's going to do, and I'm kind of excited about Dusty Blake. But what can you tell us about your observations of maybe how things might change under him?
Yeah, Bernie, he's a small-town guy. He's from a town of like 300 people in North Carolina. He's quiet, soft-spoken. But once you hear him speak, like, you realize how off-the-charts intelligent he is. He mixes in, like, real-world tactics with analytics, with, He's got guys going into the training room a day after they throw and getting their arms analyzed. He taught Adam Wainwright a drill the other day. Adam Wainwright's been here for 19 seasons. He has him throwing the ball with a sideways stance, just in warm-ups so that he can feel the ball leave the tips of his fingers. And, Ali Marmol said a while back, he said, within 2 to 3 years, Dusty Blake is going to be an absolute star in this business. He's that kind of smart, that kind of, next-level thinking. And to hear the guys rave about him now, Waino said when he first got here, he thought he was just some numbers guy because he never said anything. He was quiet. But he didn't want to step on Mike Maddox's toes. But Waino said the more I talked to him, the more I was blown away at the guy's intelligence, his knowledge of pitching, combined with this understanding of top analytics. So you put all that together, and it makes quite a package. And like Ollie said, you spend any time talking to him, you realize the guy's going to be a star in Major League Baseball in a matter of time.
That's good to hear because I'm fascinated by the guy. He could be a really influential new piece to the Cardinals puzzle this year. As the lead guy. And John, he must be good when you got the young guys raving about him and you got the 41-year-old raving about him, right?
Yeah. If you can teach Waino something that he's never done that opens his eyes, you're doing something.
Hey, in terms of a camp buzz, again, very early, but in terms of just some of the early buzz, what stands out to you? Is there anybody down there turning heads, or just anybody just looks really good in a way where the Cardinals feel better about the things to come?
We're all so baseball starved that you see the slightest little things and you get excited. But Bernie, I saw they had the pitching machine out today and they had it cranked up to 100, to really give the guys a good look. Nolan Gorman put on an absolute bomb show. He hit 6 or 8 home runs in one round, and some of them were 450, 480, like onto the other field type of home runs. So that kind of got your eyes open. And I spent some time this morning talking with Jordan Walker about working with Jose Akendo. It's a story that I just have up now on MLB.com, Cardinals.com. Anybody who knows Jose Akendo has ever had a talk with him. He is tough love. He is real. He is raw. He doesn't care if he hurts your feelings. He's going to tell you what he thinks, and he makes guys better. It's kind of a rite of passage among Cardinal young players. Brendan Donovan got a lot of it last year. Nolan Gorman got some of it. But, Jordan Walker spent the last 2 weeks or so working with Cheo with Jose Akendo, and there's nobody better in this organization. And, he says he feels so much more comfortable now. His first step is quicker working with Jose Akendo, and he can't wait to put it in games. We still got almost another week before games, but I'm curious to see Jordan Walker play right field after he's worked with Jose Akendo because that guy usually has the Midas touch when, he's working with Cardinal young players.
He really does. There's no doubt about it. And all systems go for Jack Flaherty. And I know these questions are redundant. I apologize, but he's such a critical part to this team. I think any updates on how he's looking or how everybody feels about him, I think we just all like to kind of know what the vibe is.
Jack looks great. Jack looks strong. He looks like happy. We've kind of gotten used to the scowl from Jack because he hasn't been healthy for 2 years now. Going back to, I guess, 21, the 8-1 start. He hasn't been healthy since then. Jack's walking around happy now. I spent 15 minutes talking to him the other day about Allen Iverson. He loves talking to the NBA. I covered the NBA for a long time. We talk about Iverson stories, Kobe stories. That wasn't the case with Jack last year. He kind of had a scowl on his face. He felt like he wasn't part of the team. But now he's, his body looks great. He's got a smile again. He feels good. And, we all know Jack Flaherty's got $150, $180 million on the line. And he really thinks, if he can just get the health part down, that the things are going to come back to him. And maybe he can be that pitcher from 2019 again. Maybe he can be that pitcher that started 8-1 in 2021. So Jack's healthy and happy, and that's a heck of a good start right so far.
News of the day, Ryan Helsley lost his arbitration case to the Cardinals. He wanted, I believe it was $3 million. the Cardinals pitched 2.15, and the arbitrator ruled in the Cardinals' favor. Any thoughts on that?
Well, if you haven't seen it yet, check out the video from Corbin Burns today. Like he basically said the relationship between him and the Brewers was ruined after losing his arbitration case. It's a part of baseball that nobody likes. And, is Ryan Helsley a $3 million pitcher? Of course he is. But, they're not just going to give that money out. And this was his first bite at the apple. And we all know Ryan Helsley someday he's going to make $10 million a year. Unfortunately, this is how it works. He's a $3 million. He's a $5 million pitcher right now. But if they can get away with it, they're going to pay him 2.1. I'm kind of surprised the Cardinals didn't meet him in the middle and not go to the messy, dealings of court, because, sometimes that messes a guy up. Tyler O'Neill admitted that had a lot to do with his bad season last year. He had sleepless nights about sitting in a boardroom and them telling him he wasn't that good. So, I think teams always should tread lightly when you're haggling over small amounts of money with these up-and-coming players.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I really, really do. All right, again, early days and all that, but it seems like Willson Contreras is off to a good start just in terms of bonding with his new teammates, which was one of the reasons he really felt it was important he'd be there rather than playing a World Baseball Classic. Your thoughts on how he's fitting in? Again, it's early, but
Bernie, he may be the happiest guy here in camp right now. He's like, not only, he wanted to be a Cardinal, and that's what Ollie Marmol and John Mozeliak learned right away, that he really wanted to be a Cardinal. And now he said the other day, he's like, I'm happier than ever that I'm here because everybody has embraced me. They do camp the right way. Everybody's shown him love and respect. He's got two other Venezuelan guys, locker in right next to him. So he's at home right away, and he lives in Orlando in the off season. So he's been here for 3 weeks, as opposed to the Cubs training in Arizona. He loves the move to Florida. So, all systems go so far. He's smiling. He's happy. He's hit the ball really well in a batting practice session the other day. So I would describe Willson Contreras as the happiest man in camp right now.
Yeah, I really looking forward to watching him play. Even in the exhibition games, it'll be kind of cool. John, I don't know what else I got for you, man. Although one thing I want to do is give you the opportunity to, get the word out on something that you're working on or something that's you're about to publish and put online that people will want to read. Because I know, in addition to the sort of the daily grind, you always find great angles and kind of flesh things out and turn it into, I'd hate to call it a human interest story, but you know what I mean. You go a little deeper into the personality. You got something that you want to tell us about? We don't want you to give away anything, but you got something good that you're excited about coming up?
Yeah, I did just a small little snippet story today on Jordan Walker, but I'm working on this big piece about, how he got to this point. And Randy Flores told me there was a moment, it was 2019, Jordan Walker was 17 years old, and they had heard all these great things about him, so they set up a meet and greet. And Randy said, well, normally you go to these things and you ask a question, and instead of the kid answering it, it's the parent who's answering it. And if the kid says anything, he usually says 3 words and something rehearsed. Randy Flores said he asked a question. Jordan Walker took control of the conversation. He answered that question. He answered the next question. His father told him going in, he's like, they don't want to know about me. They want to know about you. So you better be ready to talk. And Randy Flores said that night they knew this kid is different. And, here he is, 17 years old. It's 6 months before he's about to be drafted. And from that moment on, they had their fingers crossed. This kid was so good. His nickname in high school was the resume. He had the 3.9 GPA. He had the scholarship offer from Duke. He's 6'5", 230. And, Randy Flores, the light went on that day. When he took control of the interview as a 17-year-old, made good eye contact, good body language, gave great answers, that was the moment the Cardinals knew this kid's different. So that's kind of a feature that I'm working on that will be out in the next week or so.
Well, we're looking forward to that. It'll be a great read, and I know about that. And also, sometimes exhibition games, even if you're a huge fan, they kind of become tedious after that kind of first week or so, maybe 2 weeks. But anytime Jordan Walker's in a lineup and the game is on television or whether it's a Cardinals broadcast or the other team's broadcast or sometimes it's available online, I'm pretty sure people are going to watch every one of his at-bats.
Yeah, Bernie, there was about an 11-year stretch where number 5 would come to the plate, and you didn't go top off your drink, you didn't go to the restroom, you stayed and watched, and hey, it could, you don't want to put too much out there, but this kid could have that same sort of potential. You never know.
Yeah, we're all looking forward to it, and we look forward to continue to read you at MLB.com. And again, John posts some good video around the batting cage, just some of the stuff going on down there at Jupiter, and obviously he provides links to everything he writes. So that's why you got to follow him at John Denton, his name, 555, at John Denton 555. Until we talk again, I can't thank you enough for being so kind to come on again. Thank you, John.
Thanks, my friend. Take care.
See ya. That's our friend John Denton. Listen, there's certain things about spring training that after a while, like right away, it's like, okay, get me to the regular season. And some of you heard me talk about it before. I genuinely love spring training in terms of it's here. It means you're closer, and there's always things to keep an eye on. There's always things you're excited to see, or maybe the better word is you're really curious to see. Like I want to see. I don't really care about his if he pitches 3 innings and gives up 5 hits. I don't care about that. I'm talking about Jack Flaherty. But if it's a game I can watch. I just want to see how hard he's throwing, how the ball's coming out of his hand, his body language. Looks like mechanically he's stretched out and there's not anything sort of holding him back. He's free and easy. That's the kind of stuff I want to watch. Frankly, I don't care about batting averages. I really don't care. And you've heard me grump about this. I really don't care if it's kind of a fringe guy or a veteran who has not hit for 2 years, Paul DeYoung. I really don't care if they have a game where, they hit a couple ground ball signals and then everyone's foaming at the mouth. Oh, he's hitting 333 this spring. Okay, great. It's just that there are guys like that you're not going to be able to tell anything until the real baseball starts, right? And whether Paul DeYoung, for example, and I don't mean to pick on him, but whether he gets a few hits early in spring training because he's got his new swing and all this other stuff. And it's like, that's great. Okay, so what are you going to show us when you're facing real pitchers in real competition circumstances, regular season baseball? What's going to happen when you run into your first 111? I mean, it's just some of this stuff is just ridiculous. But there are certain things, and Jordan Walker is one of them, where you just want to see him swing the bat. It doesn't matter that it's exhibition baseball. It really doesn't. You just want to see the presence. You want to see his talent. You want to see how he handles himself, his persona, all that stuff. Just all the stuff that'll tell you, you know what, he looks like he's a veteran already. That kind of thing. And you know what? If he is showing that persona and professionalism and confidence, I don't care if he's hitting 190 or 390, because if he's carrying himself the right way and he's got an idea of what he wants to do at the plate and he's poised and confident, if he hits into some hard outs and his average is dropping, I don't care because the hits will come. If he's making contact, he's avoiding swinging, chasing pitches out of the zone. He's not jumping at stuff. He has those good habits, a smart hitting approach. The numbers will be there over the course of a season. So, yeah, I just have a major burr about huffing and puffing over spring training stats. Just can't stand it. And I've been guilty of it. Well, Justin Williams, last 12, 13 games, he's hitting like 329. True. What did it mean? Nothing. Right?
It's 100% on him. Yes.
I've done it myself, and the fact that I've done it myself makes me even more allergic to it now. I'm like, no. Don't be stupid. Don't do it again. So anyway, I look forward to watching. There's a few. Maybe I'll get into this tomorrow a little bit. I don't know how many people, but I do have a list, unofficially, like a list of the guys I'm most interested in this spring training. And not so much about anything they do statistically, just to see what they look like and whether their approach is the right approach and they look like they're building some confidence, things like that.
I'm there with you on the spring training thing because, look, I don't have time to sit there and watch all the minor league games on a nightly basis or whatever. I want to see, much like you, it could be any player, but is he tracking pitches? Is he swinging at everything that goes in the dirt? Is he stiff when he's swinging? Is he fluid? Just things when you watch a good ball player, you know it. You see it. Even in the field, does he look real hesitant out there? Is he aggressive? Does he go get the ball? Can he glide to it, or when he's out there running around, is he bobbing his head left and right? And he got it. Well, yeah, but it wasn't very clean. Shows me he's not the best of defenders out there. Those are the kind of things I want to see with some of the new guys, and same with a pitcher. Is he confused out there? You can tell body language. Body language for a lot of guys will give you a feel for he's overmatched or he knows exactly where he wants to go with the ball right now. I know with John Denton just having the conversation, he's describing Jack Flaherty as a guy who's confident and he knows what he wants to do and what he needs to do out there, as opposed to him and hawing around and I'm not sure if I'm healthy and I'm angry and I'm, so you'll know when spring training starts, and that's probably the most important thing that I like to watch through spring training.
Yeah, Gorman is certainly one to watch. Mm-hmm. I'm glad to hear about that. It's batting practice, so yeah, I realize that. So I'll temper my enthusiasm a little bit or a lot, but anything the big fella does to just do what we talked about the other day. The number of times he hits a ball he barrels a pitch or he hits the sweet spot of the baseball, and you're just like, the more he does it, I don't care what the circumstances are, the better he's going to be. And so, I'm really looking forward to seeing that. I'm looking forward to seeing if he can lay off the high fastball this season, which became, as the season went on, became a real problem for him, where he did not win the battle pitches up in the zone. And he's going to have to change that or they'll eat him alive. And I think he will change it because he's really smart. He knows what he has to do, and over time he fixes it. So got to just remember he's 23 years old, and he's got about 380 at-bats or whatever in the big league. So it'll come together. I got a lot of confidence in him because when he makes contact, man, exciting things happen. And you just got to, I'm not expecting Rod Carew, okay? It's just, you put up with some strikeouts, right? You don't, but if he's got a persistent weakness that pitchers are exploiting, he has to close that up. He's got to fix that. And that's the challenge. And as long as he's making progress in fixing his biggest flaw or his biggest vulnerability, his biggest weak spot, as long as he's making progress, I'm good. Because not everybody's Mike Trout, okay? They come to the big leagues and they're like a Hall of Famer. They're Hall of Fame bound like after 2 months. It's not that easy. Very few guys are like that. But as long as the big fella is making progress, it's showing that he's doing something about his weaknesses and he gets it. He understands. I'm going to be happy with him. So and this notion that somehow he's competing for a roster spot, to me, is just ludicrous. If that's really true. I don't think it's true. I think the Cardinals, I can tell you one thing that's been irritating me about spring training already is the storyline, the narrative. And I don't know what to say because that's spring training. You have spring training, you have 50 media or more people down there. Everyone's been pent up all winter. They're down in Florida. The team's there. They're seeing guys practice and seeing guys throw, seeing guys hit, seeing guys run. The managers know, and Ali Marmol is really smart about this. He's really savvy with the media, and that's a compliment, by the way, because you got to have a message, and your words have to matter, and you have to say interesting things. And he will also take on stuff that maybe some managers, Mike Matheny, would get overly sensitive about. Like some questions would be very insulting. because it wasn't the usual. Mike, you just got to love your team. Your thoughts, and Schilt became whiny too. Well, he just beat the Marlins, that kind of thing. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
They swept the Marlins 3 at Busch Stadium, and then they played really, really bad for a while. He said, well, just last week we swept the Marlins. He was like exasperated. He wanted a parade. Anyway, Marmol's not like that at all. That's what I like him, man. This guy, he puts it out there straight. He doesn't hold back. You see, he was mic'd up for that one argument he had with, was it C.B. Buckner? I think it was, where he got ejected in Arizona because Buckner, of course, either half asleep or he can't see, or he's just really stupid and he shouldn't be in the major leagues. Maybe a combination of all three. There was a pitch about good foot and a half outside that Arenado didn't swing at because obviously Arenado's not dumb. It's not even close to being a strike. And Buckner, who, of course, can't be bothered to put in a full effort over 9 innings, called it a ball, and Ollie's out there hollering at him. And Ollie is just going nuts. I mean, he's just like up in his face saying all kinds of nasty stuff. He's impressive. But anyway, the good stuff about his candor and how edgy he is, and this has nothing to do with him screwing up a game as he did in Game 1 of the wild card series. Because again, sometimes when you praise a guy for something that's one of his strengths, right? You're not obligated to talk about, there was a game 6.5 weeks ago where it's like, yeah, it's called baseball. Gotcha. It's called baseball. Every manager who's ever lived has had, that game 6 weeks ago, yeah. Tell me something that's never happened before. Anyway, the one thing about Marmol, though, he's such a smart guy, but he also knows how the media functions, so he'll dish it out. And so they all decided when they got down there, I'm talking about the Cardinals, I'm talking about Mo, I'm talking about Marmol. This was going to be the camp of, like, intense competition. This is such a competitive camp. This is a first time where having this camp is really competitive. Is it really? I mean, is it really? Is it really that competitive? I just
don't have too many spots open right now.
Listen, there's 30 teams. Every single one of those teams has a few positions that are unsettled. It's like, it's going to be these 3 guys for one bench job or what. And usually it's, frankly, they're just kind of run-of-the-mill guys. And I'm not trying to disparage them, but we're not talking about, all-star players button heads, and one of them is going to be on the bench. I mean, it's like, but, man, they're selling this. This is the camp of competition. This is really something. I mean, it's going to be intense. No, I don't think so. I'm sorry. I mean, thanks for the narrative, and it's good for the people on the ground. But because again, man, they need stuff to write about. But is there really that much competition? What are we talking about? You got a few guys vying to be a lefty reliever. Maybe 2 of them make it, the other 2 don't, or they decide Zach Thompson should be starting at AAA. I mean, is that really competition where you've assembled, for example, you have a lot of mediocre choices at left-handed relief. I'm just using this as one example. Mm-hmm. You have several choices, none of whom are, other than Zach Thompson potentially, none of whom jump out at you and say, man, that man's a stud. Ain't nobody going to have a chance to hit him. We're not talking about guys like that. Cabrera, unless he can reestablish himself, he's no longer that kind of guy. So if we're talking about, who's going to be the lesser of all the mediocre pitchers, or who's going to be the best of a mediocre lot? Like, is that real? You're determining that. Is that really a competition? That seems to me, you're like, well, somebody's got to get the gig.
That is so true. Somebody's got to win it. So
and it's like people keep talking about, intense competition in the outfield. Oh, is it going to be a free-for-all? Is it really? Is it really? What, they're going to send Tyler O'Neill to Memphis? if he hits like 205 or something? Like he's not going to play? Really? Does anybody seriously believe that? Right? Or like, Dylan Carlson doesn't hit the ball with authority right away. Does it mean that, okay, he may not start? Yeah, it can mean that. But does it mean he's buried? Or it's like, son, you got to go back to Memphis. Does anybody believe that? That kind of thing. Like, we know Lars Nootbaar is going to play a ton. Okay, where? Maybe it's center, maybe it's right. But the point is, it's not a competition. It's just a matter of where to put him. Now, if Jordan Walker makes the team, then you got some competition. But is he going to make the team? I don't know. And until he does, you don't have real competition because you got 4 outfielders, and all 4 of them are going to play a lot. It gets a little crowded when Walker joins the band, and then you do have to sort of go with him because there's no point in having him up here if he's not going to play all the time. So, yeah, there's some competition that kicks in, but that's the point. It's not in play right now. And it's like, so why are we forcing this? Oh, it's kind of, the competition. Oh, my heart, be still, this competition. They don't have enough good bench players to really have anything going on as far as, backup infielders. I actually read somebody saying the other day, I don't know who it wasn't Derek or anything. Say the other day, it's like, but the competition will be fierce for middle infield jobs. What?
Is there an all-star in the middle infield backup that I don't know about?
I read somebody was writing about how made a list of these young Cardinals coming back for year 2, they're all competing for a roster spot. Brendan Donovan's he's competing for a roster spot? Really? You see what I mean about why I get crabby about this stuff?
Come on. Brendan Donovan's
like what? No, he was listed. He was included in that group of names.
That's terrible.
It's just like, Brendan, he did this last year, but he has to compete for a spot. Well, first of all, that suggests that Brendan Donovan would do anything less than have an attitude of the way I look at it, I'm always competing, right? Sure. In kind of an abstract way, yeah, everyone's competing because they're competing against themselves because they want to be better. But we're actually writing that there's a doubt that he would be on the team. I mean, really? So that's why
he won a Gold Glove last year, for crying out loud. He might not make the team.
He has so much value because he can play 6 positions and he handles them all pretty well. So what? Oh, what? Who's going to beat him out? By the way, I'm curious about that. Right?
Yeah.
Who that guy from Cleveland they got? What was his name? Felix Fermin?
Yeah,
or something?
Fermin. Yeah, he's the guy.
Well, oh man, I don't know. That's a close call right there. Donovan's really going to have to earn that one. So that's what I mean about. There's so much about spring training that's really cool, but man, these false narratives or these overblown narratives. That's the fastest way to get me bored and just say, you know what? I can't read this stuff anymore. I'm gonna have to be really careful what I pick to choose to read.
Agreed. You got to be careful. You have to be careful.
Boy, Brendan Donovan, he's in a fight for his life this camp.
Oh, boy.
Oh man, I know. It was there though. It was there.
Wow.